What's up, family? Welcome back to another video. Get this video a big thumbs up if you get some value from this video. So, what would happen if a sheriff stood in front of the cameras and said exactly what most Americans are thinking, with no filters, no political correctness, and no room for interpretation? Well, that just happened in Florida 3 days ago, and his message crystal clear: if you attack law enforcement, you try to riot. If you threaten our peace, we will end that threat permanently. And in a world where political leaders often tiptoe around crime and chaos, this Florida sheriff isn't pulling any punches. His words weren't crafted by a PR team. They weren't watered down for the media. They were real, raw, and straight to the point. He looked into the camera and told would-be rioters if they throw firebombs or aim guns at his deputies, their families better be ready to collect their remains. That's just not a warning, that's a promise. And judging by the applause in the room, it's a promise that his community stands behind. And the video sent shockwaves through the internet, praised by conservatives, condemned by progressives, and dissected by everyone in between. But the real story isn't just what he said, it's why it needed to be said. And in today's video, we'll be breaking down the sheriff's now viral message, the law and order stance that's reshaping Florida's approach to protests and policing, and what this all means for the future of law enforcement in America. Let's get into it.
I'll start out by addressing the doxing issue that we were talking about. Our ICE agents, just like our Florida Highway Patrol, are our partners. We all ride together in this. We all are out here to make sure that we're protecting our citizens, protecting our communities. Many of them have been called to the border. Many of them have been called to other locations to deal with the amount of fugitives and things that are going on, detainers. So for us, we will have their back. We will work closely with Colonel Howes and his team in making sure that we're increasing patrol, we're watching them. Anybody that's doxing them, as the General said, we passed a law about 4 or 5 years ago that makes it illegal to dox here in the state of Florida. So anybody that's doing that, we will take them to full task on doing it, and we will stand with you. I want to define a couple things, and our general was very kind in how he said things. I'm not as usually as elegant in how I say things, so I'm gonna first say that peaceful protests are part of our democracy. We invite people to share their opinions. That's what our country is all about. The key word in that is peaceful, and if it's peaceful, us in law enforcement are going to make sure you have a safe environment to do it in. That's part of that process. If you let it turn violent, whoo, you do not want to do that in Brevard County.
That's that Ric Flair sound right there, boy. You already know it was a rap. This what that remind me of. I can't even spell right. Anyway.
That I just get, I actually find myself getting better looking every day of my life. Don't try to wrap me up.
Once you said that, whoo, you already know it's something serious. Anyway, let's rewind a little bit.
Violent? Whoo! You do not want to do that in Brevard County. I'm going to tell you that, and I believe I can speak for my fellow sheriffs around the rest of the state. You don't want to let it happen. And just so there's no confusion, because I don't want to hear any whining later saying we didn't know, I'm going to break it down for you, all right? Because as you watch these riots unfold across the rest of the country, what you are seeing is buildings being burned down, police cars being bricked, having explosive devices thrown on them, having fire, guns pointed at them, bricks thrown at them, all and on. So I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail. and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order. Not here, not in the state of Florida. So to make it real simple, if you don't want to have any of those things happen to you, obey the law. Go protest all you want. Do it peacefully. Stand on the mountaintops and yell your opinion, your views. We invite that. But don't you dare break the law, because it won't go well for you. All right, General? Thank you, sir.
Well, there you have it. So in Brevard County, Florida, the message is simple. Law enforcement is not the enemy. It's the backbone of a safe society. That's why the sheriff wasted no time addressing the growing issue of doxing, the deliberate exposure of private information about police officers and ICE agents in an attempt to intimidate or harm them. He made it clear. Florida passed a law years ago making it a criminal offense to dox someone. And in his county, they will enforce the law to the fullest extent. He didn't stutter. He didn't sugarcoat it. If you target the people who protect your communities, Florida will come after you. That includes ICE agents, the same ones who are called to the border, who chase fugitives, who detain violent criminals. These aren't nameless bureaucrats sitting in offices. These are boots on the ground, often working side by side with local officers to handle some of the most dangerous threats we face. The sheriff said it plain and simple. We have their back, not just with words, but with action. With increased patrols, interagency coordination, and community defense, there is a commitment to stand shoulder to shoulder with ICE, with the Florida Highway Patrol, and with any officer who puts on that badge and puts their life on the line. Because let's be real for a second. These officers wake up every morning not knowing if they'll make it back home. They deal with violent fugitives, armed standoffs, human trafficking, drug busts, and still show up to protect the same people who often turn around and criticize them. It's time someone had their back, and in Florida they do. And let's get one thing straight. Nobody's trying to silence peaceful protests. The sheriff made that clear. If you got a message, if you want to shout it, the truth or your truth from the rooftops, Florida law enforcement will make sure you have a safe place to do it. That's what democracy is all about. That's what he said. But, and this is a big one. When your protest turns violent, when you start damaging property and threatening officers or putting innocent people in danger, you cross the line. And in Brevard County, crossing that line comes with consequences. The sheriff broke it down in plain English. If you resist the law order, you're going to jail. If you block roads or intersections and disrupt the lives of everyday Floridians, you're going to jail. If you run from police, you'll still go to jail, just exhausted. And if you mob a car and trap a driver, don't be surprised if that driver defends themselves by driving through you. And this isn't about fear mongering. It's about drawing a line in the sand, because all across the country, we've seen what happens when cities let things spiral. We watch businesses get torched, patrol cars get firebombed, and officers attacked with bricks, bottles, and guns. And we've seen local leaders respond with excuses, not accountability, but not here. And this sheriff made one thing perfectly clear. Florida isn't going to become the next Portland or the next Chicago or the next Seattle. The difference? Leadership with guts. A team that knows the difference between civil disobedience and outright anarchy. So go ahead, protest, speak your mind, make signs, chant, rally, march. But the moment you turn a protest into protest into a riot, all bets are off. So this is where the sheriff's speech stopped being political and became surgical. No fluff, no spin, just facts and consequences. He laid out the rules with the clarity of a military op. You break the law, you go to jail. You flee the arrest, they will run you down. You mob a car, expect to get ran over. You assault an officer, you're going to hospital and jail. Probably both. You throw a brick or launch a firebomb or point a gun at a deputy, that's a death sentence. And he said it just like that. This wasn't a metaphor. He literally said, we will notify your family or to collect your remains because we will kill you graveyard dead. Harsh? Yes. Necessary? Absolutely. Because the real threat isn't just lawlessness. And we having a conversation here. It's on the normalization of it. In city after city, law enforcement is treated like the villain for doing the job they were hired to do, and the results are always the same. Burnt out neighborhoods, closed businesses, skyrocketing crime, and police departments that can't keep officers on the force. Not in Brevard County. And let's not overlook one of the most memorable quotes. If you hit one of us, you're going to jail and to the hospital, or most likely getting bit by one of our big, beautiful dogs, right? That line alone is already iconic. If it tells you everything about their mindset, this is not a department that's going to sit back and let chaos reign. They got the gear, they got the training, they got the will to use both. In a world that's going soft on criminals and hard on cops, this sheriff is putting the priorities back in order, protecting the people who protect us. You want to riot? Not here. You want to assault officers? Try it and see how fast it ends. So, what we witnessed in this sheriff's speech wasn't just a rant. It was a display of leadership, the kind that this country has been starving for years. Too many officials have played it safe. They pandered to the political correctness, walked on eggshells, let officers hanging out to dry. Meanwhile, the people who throw bricks at police, set buildings on fire, and destroy public property get called activists. They get protected by policy, praised by pundits, and bailed out by nonprofits. But here's the truth. Leadership means making hard decisions, right? So leadership means standing in front of your people and telling them, I got your back. And that's exactly what this sheriff did. He looked at every officer, every deputy, every ICE agent and told them they are not alone. And he said, we stand with you. And more importantly, he meant it, right? That's the kind of leadership that isn't common anymore. We live in a time where law enforcement is often asked to do the impossible with no support. They expected to risk their lives, take verbal abuse, dodge Molotov cocktails, and still turn around and politely ask criminals to comply. But in Brevard County, the script is flipped. The sheriff isn't apologizing for supporting police. He's proud of it, and that pride sends a message accountability goes both ways. Yes, police officers must be held to a standard, but so must the public. You don't get to attack people who protect you and then play victim when a consequence hit or consequences hit. And this is what leadership with backbones look like: firm, fearless, and focused on protecting law and order. And look, let's stop pretending we don't see it. There are two different Americans right now. In one America, you got cities where the laws are enforced, policies are back, or police are back, policies are back, but most importantly, police who protect the communities, and criminals are afraid of consequences. On the other side, you got chaos, cities where looters walk free, police get defunded, and violent offenders get released with a slap on the wrist. The sheriff's speech didn't reflect Brevard County. It reflected the divide between red states and blue states, between law and order and lawlessness. In places like Florida, Mississippi, and Texas, there's a sense of structure, right? That the law means something. The badge still carries weight. And the people in charge understand that keeping the peace means more than just holding press conferences. It means actions. So compare that to what's happening in some Democratic led cities. Cops quieting um cops quitting in droves, rising crime rates, and a political class that's more concerned with appeasing radicals than protecting families. That's why this message from Florida hit so hard. It wasn't just tough talk, it was a reminder of what accountability, responsibility, and public safety are supposed to look like. And it's the kind of message you almost never hear from officials in San Francisco or Chicago or New York, where even basic law enforcement is treated like oppression and criminals get treated like victims. The truth is, law and order aren't partisan, they are foundational. But the only places taking that seriously right now are the ones being led by people who aren't afraid to call things what they are, and people who don't mince words, who don't fold under pressure, and who don't pretend that riots are peaceful demonstrations. The sheriff drew a line in the sand and dared anyone to cross it. And just like that, he reminded everyone watching that the real divide in this country isn't just about left versus right, it's about order versus chaos. See, a lot of people, especially in those Democratic led states, they have a good way of hiding things. They hide behind things and they try to put on a certain image to appease to the people, but the results show the truth, and those are the individuals who really call it for what it is. So I'm gonna leave it there, family. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some value from this video. Give this video a big thumbs up. Let the love supersede the peace. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. On that note, family, peace. I'm out.